Hello, welcome to the Ask a Christian podcast. I'm your host, Nate. Whoa, wait a minute. I'm still Nate, and this is still the Ask a Christian podcast. All right, if you want more, go to Spotify. So what was I going to say? Yeah, it's the first day of spring break. Yay! So take 2 seconds. If you wouldn't mind, like, share, subscribe. It's not that bad. Do it, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. So yeah, like, share, subscribe, and let's just get to whatever topics we have. So it's a late and slow day. Except I put on a happy blue shirt because it's spring break. So it's all festive, right? So yeah, this is gonna be a tough week, man. How's your spring break going? Great, wonderful. I had to get up at like 3 a.m. to take my family that was visiting to the airport, so I'm very tired. So it's Ask a Tired Christian today. But really, just no one bother me today. I'm just going to be here for like 30 minutes, and I'm going to peace out with
Sounds
the love
good,
of
man.
Christ in my heart. So, oh my gosh, speaking of heart, bro, look, my parents were here 10 days. Not one time did I feel compelled, and I don't mean this like I had to shove it a little deep inside. Like there was no reason to discuss any sort of father wound whatsoever. I can't get that out of my head since I read that because that just like sums up decades of this stuff that I'm like, bro, this is weird, right? This we're not called to be warriors and men of God by becoming women. It's like you're covering that up. Real men discuss their feelings. Look, I get it. Some have more trauma in different areas. I guess an absent father or a mean father or whatever. I mean, dad, because we have one father in heaven. But look, you can. What is a proper amount of time? I mean, you can't think about this in like probably the real practical way, but like we could words have meanings, right? Like we can change the meanings that words change over time. The meaning people like to say. So why can't we do that? So what is a proper warrior man of God? Because discuss your feelings and all this other stuff. What's a proper amount of time? Like a couple hours every 3 to 4 years. Is that okay? Like it's like not every time. It's like Nate, you're scared of your feelings. Like look, I am kind of like the anti-feeling person. I don't have a lot of feelings. Every now and then it's like that crazy horse guy. Like a tear will come into the corner of my eye. But every couple years, I'm good. For people that need that more, I don't want to stand in vicious mockery of them because that just seems mean and not necessarily Christ-like. But on the other hand, it's like, look, if I'm a little too not with all that stuff so much, the people who are with that are too much on the other side. They're way too with that. Chris, can you translate me?
You just need me to be a Nate whisperer right now. Is that
Yeah,
the deal?
like make the point that suck it up, men, to a point, and then I'm doing it again. Just Chris, I'm delirious right now. I am like seeing a couple of different things. I've barely had breakfast. This is going to be a rough week, and my kids are up at 6:30. I think even earlier, but it's their day off. Even on Saturday and Sunday, they're like, I'm up on Saturday and Sunday. I'm like, okay, well, you wouldn't know it because you're like, stay in your room until I drag you out at like church time. They're like, oh, I wake up all this time. I'm like, well, why did you come out of your room today? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, to make my life the way it is why. So they're probably going to have father wounds from me at some point. So I got to watch that and, be like, it's okay. Tell daddy what your problems are. Let's talk about this. Let's have a therapy session. But they're chicks, so it's fine.
Girls need that. Yeah, that's fine. Like girls need
chicks,
to talk about their feelings.
It's like how I don't know how your experience with your
My wife wants to talk about her feelings about you right now.
You're not just kidding. Do it. Lay it all out. I want to know.
It's so funny. She's over here cracking jokes. Like,
give her a headset. Let's join the party.
Right? You do not want that. You do not want the sarcastic. And she has this penchant for saying very few words, but then being able to immediately put you in your place with like the fewest words possible.
Okay, well, without
She's
putting
sort of like the antimatter to your matter.
Okay, well, without
She's like
putting
the
Nate in his
anti-Nate.
place, can you channel her powers and put all the guys in the place who I would like to put in their place? Which sounds weird. This isn't supposed to be like picking on people and making them have more like Christian brother wounds they have to discuss. Like I'm just it's supposed to be some helpful criticism, right? So it's like, look, guys, you need to process your trauma. That's fine, but then bill this as like Christian brothers who need to process their trauma. Like if you're building this as like warriors of men of God, I'm thinking like sons of thunder, like point me to battle, like give me a chariot and a spear, and like after like thousands of your fellow soldiers have fallen dead and their heads are rolling, process that for a little bit, but then buck up and let's go fight some more Goliaths or something, as it were. So
Or orcs.
just don't do false advertising. Okay, can she harness her powers and
She,
give me the
she
thing I'm
was
trying to say for 10 minutes?
she was just saying that you do have feelings. It's normally anger and repression of your feelings.
I mean, people that are like, he uses sarcasm to hide his vulnerability. I mean, maybe, but at this point, that thing's been beat so far down that I don't even know.
What's behind that beard, Nate? Is that your shield?
It's like one of those false waterfalls where you like walk behind the waterfall and it's like a whole magical city. Except,
100%.
would that be like my brain?
Yeah.
This is gonna be a bad
Oh
day,
man,
Chris.
dude, this is so perfect. Michael just showed up, and now you can, for the next 30 minutes, if you pay him enough money, he will talk to you about your father wounds.
I
Um,
don't. I
in
don't
the
want
most
any of this.
responsible and clinical way.
It feels like there was a part two I was going to go on with that. Hey, Michael. Good morning. I think there was a part two I was going to go with. Heart. Look, along the lines of father wounds, I only have so much time for like heart, 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 heart. I mean, the book I'm writing, heart is mentioned quite a bit, but it's usually because it's been ripped out of someone's chest and is on like a stake or something like that. You know, for flair. But it's like along the lines of like holding the totem pole and discussing everything that went wrong. How you didn't get loved as a child. Did we make him leave already? Anyway, maybe we got a call. Welcome back, Michael. But all
Bro,
these things I'm seeing.
the peanut gallery in my house right now is, I just have to tell you, is breathtaking. I
Put
can't
us on
even repeat the
speakerphone.
things that are
Let your
happening
family
right
be a
now.
part of this. Let your
Well,
family join.
I had to inform my wife that you were in the middle of writing a fantasy novel, and she was like, "Oh, yeah," and I was like, "Yeah, he's been writing it for like 10 years." She's like, "Uh huh." She's like, "Have Pastor Sam finish it."
Oh, that's good.
Dang, lady.
That's good. Okay, so maybe you could have someone finish what I'm trying to say. Okay, so father wound, totem pole, warriors for Christ. Hold my heart, brother. Yeah. Um. Um. Okay. So where are we now? Heart. I get it, right? The Bible talks about the heart, right? The heart of God. The heart of man is wicked and deceitful. Who can know it? Don't listen to it. Listen to God. There are appropriate a few times in the Bible to talk about heart stuff and feel stuff. But let's move on. The Bible is full of more than that. When people are like, hanging out with brothers in Christ, like, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" It's like, "How was your weekend of wrestling the alligators?" It's like, "Well, we didn't do that, but I learned a lot about my heart this week." What? It's like, "Well, I learned that my heart needs to be this, and my heart. Just stop saying heart." Michael, the truth, the toad of truth is squatting somewhere in this forest of me repressing my feelings to a point that no matter how much I don't want to, I just sound bitter and angry at people who are like way too free with their feelings. And then there's the other extreme, which are people who cannot get over their feelings. It's like, "Guys, I've worked through my trauma after 67 years, and now I'm ready to be the man God wants me to be." It's like, "Okay, what's your calling? What do you want to do?" And it's like, "Well, I want to just talk about my heart." It's like, "Wait, you just, all your stuff's resolved, right? It's time to move on." "I know, but hear my heart." Especially if they like put their hand on your shoulder. It's like, "I want you to hear my heart." I'm like, no one's ever done that to me, fortunately, because I think I'd take a big step back and be like, "Look, man, I can't. Like, I don't want to be mean, but there's no other way I have to be mean. Please don't touch me." And really just, I'm going to leave.
Well, Nate, I think it's for Empathy Raw to come back, and we can talk about your feelings. And trust me when I say I feel your pain, like Bill Clinton did,
Wait,
especially
what?
during it. That was his famous line, "I feel your pain."
Oh,
You didn't know that?
okay.
Yeah, especially when he's giving you a pelvic exam.
I'm familiar with more of his more provocative lines.
Yeah, no, I did not have anyway. What is the meaning of is
I did not inhale. That one too. Remember that one?
mhm.
Everyone forgets that one
um
for the one that one ups it.
yeah, boxers or briefs. Oh, that was a bomb. Um um Michael. So I just reposted the article. I know you never go to the chat. I know that it is somehow against your atheist core religion to go and check something in the chat. But this
No,
time,
no. It's laziness.
no,
You have to email him. Email him. He'll check it immediately.
I
It's
tried
lazy. Yeah,
looking
yeah.
for his email the
Email
other
him. Yeah.
day, and I can't find it in my email. It's not Michael's fault. It's the fact that I get 14,000 emails a day, and so
It's just the CA at Rogers.com.
that's what it is. Okay.
THECA at Rogers.com.
Well, that was my whole problem. I kept looking for Michael.
Email
Anyway,
all of your hate mail and
I want
therapy
you to read
questions
this
to Michael.
article because I'm actually really. It's a very short. It's a 7-minute read, and I'm actually extremely interested in your take on.
Social workers can't read. What are you talking about?
Well, it's that's part of being a social worker.
So what's weird is that when I came in the room this morning, this is total topic change. I had to put my earbuds in because the volume was so low. And it wasn't just Nate. It was both of you were incredibly low. When I put my earbuds in, it's totally fine. That's why I left and came back. I'm like, it must be the app, but it didn't.
This is a Discord thing. Here, I'll give you some tech support. So, do you see on the bot? Are you using your phone?
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to talk about my father wound now.
Yes, this is his Discord wound. I'm going to help him with his Discord wound. Okay, so do you see the faint line above all the crap at the bottom?
Well, while they're talking tech,
like a little red button.
Okay,
the faint line.
That's really. I know I ramble
change
a lot.
Audio.
Yeah,
I don't even. Can I deafen them?
Change audio output. Oh, I can change the volume there. Very cool. Okay.
Yeah, and that's you also have to put it on
there.
speaker.
While they talk about that, let me lower their volume. Look, I know I ramble a lot, but this is bothering me. Maybe more than it should. Maybe I need therapy. But I'm also really tired, delirious from driving around all over Florida at 3 a.m.
Anyway, what? Oh, so just to
I think they're done.
A very small snippet, Nate, of what you said. But it's not. So I'll say, it's not you, it's everybody, and it's not everybody, but it's most men. A lot of men have a hard time talking about their feelings, and this is 27 years of social work talking, and it's mostly because we have been taught and conditioned that that the provider, being the provider, precludes vulnerability, because you have to, and there was times I was guilty of this as well, right? So for example, okay, a personal example. When my daughter's mother and I separated, my daughter was pretty vulnerable. She was only 6 at the time, and her mother was just like in pieces, right? I mean, who could blame her? I'm so amazing. But she was just a pillar of not strength. And so even though I was hurting and I was upset and all those other things too, I felt like I had to be Superman, because there had to be something in her life that was solid and that was dependable, etc. And so that's like that, where that comes from is this kind of conditioning as the kind of typical, and I'd say even prototypical provider has to be strong. So it's not a weakness on your side that you have a hard time talking about your feelings, because you have feelings. Everybody does. It's not a weakness on your side. It's a factor of conditioning, and you don't. I think you either don't feel like you can, or that it's acceptable, or worse, even worse. I'm gonna just 10 seconds. That you will feel like, or you will be perceived as less than a man.
let me catch you up to where we are. So I'm having feelings, and they're like, yeah, um, which is my conditioning or whatever. Look, we're not talking about Nate.
Describe
Not
there. I don't know
we're
what there is.
like okay. Let me bring you up to speed, and then maybe that will paint a clearer picture. So we're not talking about
Okay.
Nate discussing his feelings. I could be like, that was bad. This in my childhood was bad. But I'm not gonna like blubber and cry. That's just me. So we're not talking about Nate expressing his feelings. What we're talking about, Michael, is on the other side of what you said. So yes, men are conditioned to be strong and Superman, not shove that down. Men don't cry or whatever. Da, da, da. I get that, but we're talking about. Well, first of all, we're talking about like a bunch of Christian fellowship, which is maybe not exactly your field. But the idea is when you get past those walls, um, and it's like, oh, real men can share their feelings and cry. So we've already passed the part you just said, and now I mean, not me. I'm like, yeah, this happened a long time ago, made me mad, punched someone, got in trouble. But like other people that are like have crossed that hurdle that what you just said to now they're like, it's okay to like share my feelings and bare my soul, and they never stop. It's like, okay, wait, guys, the women in your life are going to be like, can at some point will you please man up and kill a deer, please? It's like, let me be the woman here. And it's like not saying you can't share your feelings, but if you start sharing your feelings and never stop, like that's what we're talking about, Michael. So I mean, there's a lot more stuff you missed, but that's basically it. So people who have crossed that hurdle into soul bearing territory, and they just won't ever. It's like their hobby horse, right? Like whenever you men get a new hobby, that's all they want to do. They want to do it the best, and that's really what takes their attention. So it's like once they learn, real men can hold each other and cry, which don't count me in that group. You're repressing your feelings, Nate. Fine, let me repress them. But for the people that do that, it's like, guys, you can occasionally do some other stuff now. Like this is a new part of your life. Yes, you can talk about stuff that's gone wrong, but don't forget. It's like you say, Michael. Follow your heart, but don't forget your brain or whatever that saying is. It's like, look, sure, share your soul, but don't forget everything else with it. That's where we are, Michael. So what do you have to say for that? Like, how much bearing one's soul is too much? And I mean, I expect a clinical answer, like as much as necessary. But I mean, come on. Like, how would the
Well, no,
Canadian
but
hockey
okay,
team
so
address this?
yeah, I don't give a damn about
Oh
sports,
wait, you don't
at
like
least like
hockey?
that. Yeah, no,
Beat it with a
hockey's dumb.
stick.
Yeah, hockey's dumb.
I agree.
If it doesn't have four wheels, a pedal box, and a steering wheel, I don't care. Right, okay, so
They're gonna
um,
revoke your maple leaf, man.
Huh?
say that. Yeah, they might. So okay, so conspicuous there was again a lot of, well, some projection, right? Because you were projecting onto women saying, oh, give me a break, stuff like that. So again, there's also a conditioning factor from that side too, right? So if you are a girl and you grow up in a household where you don't see your father expressing emotions, and things like that, but the bills get paid, there's roof over head, clothes on your back, and things are generally functioning, then you will also develop the sense that, oh, this is how men are supposed to behave. And then when you get with, if you end up meeting a man who does express his feelings and so on and so forth, you're like, what? This is not what men do. Look, I spent my whole life watching men that didn't behave like this. So you must not be a man, right? So there's some projection there, but um, the answer is, it's a little bit more than as much as you need to, but you're not wrong in that. So you do have to walk a fine line, right? Like you can't constantly be looking for the campfire to share your feelings. Okay. But there's nothing wrong with sharing them at kind of any given time, given that you are talking to people who have the capacity to display empathy and who know you and that trust you and you trust, right? Um, it's also interesting, this, you said, when you have a new hobby, it's all you want to do. Um, Not necessarily, because we can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? So you have the capacity to do whatever it is you do, right? And be a father, and be a husband, and be a friend, right? So you're not just doing like you are much more than one dimensional as well. So you can take that capacity to be more than one dimensional in other ways, and you can apply it to other aspects of your life. So it's, and this is kind of what, when I talk about sometimes about being, kind of forming into this well-rounded individual who has the capacity to do these things, like again, walk and chew gum, et cetera. And yes, there will always be times when you have to prioritize, right? Oh man, X thing really happened to me today, and I've got some feelings about this, but my kid's getting bullied at school, and my wife's, got these projects at work. And so I have to kind of prioritize, and I have to, do my best to, because, I think I can put my thing on the back burner for a little bit, while I help my kid and I help my wife, et cetera. Right. So I'm not saying that we can't do those things, but these are the capacity to display feelings and the capacity to quote unquote be a man, however you define that, are not mutually exclusive.
Let's talk about
Well, Michael,
Chris's
I just
drama.
sent you the email with the article that we're talking about that has so impacted
Okay.
Nate that he's been thinking about it all weekend.
Guys, if this turns around to us holding the campfire stick and crying on YouTube live, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Oh, if it's going to turn to that, I got to start the meter, right? Because I want to retire soon.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
gonna
You
have
won't retire off us. Well, maybe Chris, not me.
well, I don't, Nate. I'm not sure if you heard this, but so my retirement date was like T minus 3 months, and my wife has talked me into working for another year. So, because like my retirement income will be like an extra $17,000 a year if I do just one more year. So,
Wow.
whatever.
So have you crossed the
So
1 year barrier, or you're about to step
no,
over the
no,
one
no.
year
So I
barrier?
was supposed to be end of May. End of May was like my done date. End of May 2026.
I don't know, Michael. Is this wise advice, or is this unnecessary advice, and you need to convert to Christianity so you can have biblical authority to say, "Don't usurp the male," and I'm retiring
No, I don't think so, because it does give us the capacity. So I told her, I'm like,
to travel to Mexico and die? Okay.
if I am working another year, then I'm getting a 9/11. And so she's like, nah, and just
Oh,
walked away.
so that's yes. So that's I heard yes.
Oh yeah, no, that's tacit agreement in our
Okay,
household. That's tacit
but you
agreement.
just got a new Mercedes.
No, my Mercedes is almost 3 years old now.
I thought you told me you just the electric Mercedes.
Yeah, it's like 2 and a bit years old. Yeah,
Oh, huh.
yeah.
Okay.
So Chris and I were talking about this last week. I have an EQE 500, and I have a Cayman GTS 4 liter. And I told her, I'm like, I'm selling the Cayman and I'm getting a Carrera. And she's like, meh, like it's your money. So
Are you gonna get the jacket, or do you already have the jacket?
I have a couple of different jackets. One actually that I got. So up here, it's actually look at your clock. It's 9/11. It's the perfect time of day.
If you're a
So
terrorist, I don't. What does you mean by
no,
that?
it was actually it was 9/11. So originally the Porsche 911 was originally going to be called the Porsche 901. But Peugeot already had a 901. So they went to the mattresses. This is like 60 years ago now, and ended up fighting. And so Ferdinand Porsche was like, the hell with it. I'll just make it 911 instead. It's been 911. So it was 911 before 9/11 ever happened. So yeah. Anyway, uh, I got one jacket when I went to the Porsche Motorsport Museum in Stuttgart 20 years ago for our honeymoon. And then I also got one that's actually signed by a couple of Nick Tandy, who's
Ferdinand
a
Porsche.
Porsche Works factory driver who races in the IMSA GT series when they did a race up here in Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So I've got a couple of different jackets.
Does everyone who buys a Porsche do a full research? Because I have a neighbor that just moved in down the road, and they have a Porsche. So I think next time I drive by their house and they're outside, and be like, "Hey, I like your Porsche," and just see how they react. Or are they going to chase me down, and give me a pronunciation of Ferdinand Porsche?
You very likely will be corrected.
um,
Yeah. It'd be like if somebody called you and looked at your name and said, "Oh, so hi Nat."
Chris, when
right?
you got your
You would correct
Tesla,
that.
does that mean anything anyone says that's incorrect about Elon Musk, you'll have to correct because you've absorbed the ethos?
Yeah, my son in Gen Z parlance says that I glaze Elon Musk.
He needs therapy.
I'll say even I know what that means. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. So
Um, okay, so what
The
in
Gen Z is not. Well, at any rate, I do. One of the things I do appreciate, and actually, Michael, this would be an interesting question for you, and this can maybe move us off the father wound topic, where I know
We
Nate
didn't
wants
get
to
to resolve it. I
die.
wanted to know how much is too much. Like, how much am I just repressing my feelings and being a bad person? Versus, guys, come on, this is too much. Or if it's not too
Nate,
much, you need to move categories and not call it like what you're calling it. Not call it like
men
super
for
Christian warrior
thousands of
training.
years Men for thousands of years have absolutely survived and thrived without once talking about their dang feelings. So I'd
I don't
say
know
that
about
you're doing
thrived.
fine.
I think thrived might be pushing it a little bit. So
Give me an answer and we can move on.
right. Okay, so what I would say is there's a yeah, okay, so like maybe a minute. There's an inextricable biochemical link between the emotional and the physical, right? Um, you could say, to break it down to its lowest common denominator, we are quite literally bags of chemicals, right? You have
Created
chemical
by God.
reactions in your brain. The chemical reactions, like whether it be neuro reactions, right? That the where you make your hands move and your lips move and stuff like that, and speech come out, to running down the street, to driving your car, to talking to your wife. Okay, when you have there's a couple of big ones. The first one is dopamine. Dopamine's the good drug, right? So let's say you're a stand-up comedian. The best way to describe it is, if you're a stand-up comedian, you're up on the stage and you're doing a set, and everybody's laughing at your jokes, so you get these dopamine hits. um and it's the good stuff, right? So when just imagine anything that good happens in your life, and somebody recognizes that and says, "Hey, Nate, that was a great job," you get a little dopamine hit. The reverse drug is one called cortisol. Cortisol is the bad one. Now it's more complex than this, but this is the easiest way to kind of break it down. Cortisol is the bad one. So that same comedian who gets crickets is getting shots of cortisol. And that same Nate that doesn't get recognition or negative recognition, like that's what you did, like on where in your brain did you think I wanted that? That then you get the cortisol. And that's the bad stuff.
So you're saying every day
By
when I
not
come
ex-
here, it's just cortisol shot
yeah,
over and over and
exactly.
over.
Exactly. Yeah, this is a terrible environment for you. Um, so
I like the
not
pain.
dealing with those things, not talking about those feelings, repressing them, right? Bury them down, like you talked about before. Like, be the man, bang your chest, and put your head down and do your job. Don't complain. What the silent generation did, what the like all these different like generations before us, like the group in the depression, stuff like that, like my father, right, who never learned how to talk about his feelings, and at 47 had his first heart attack, and had supplementally 9 more heart attacks, 2 strokes, and 2 bypass operations. He never learned how to talk about his feelings ever once. And I heard him break down once when I was a teenager. He was talking to his sister, my aunt, and he lost it on the telephone. He didn't know that I was within earshot. And when he discovered that I was within earshot, he clammed up immediately, like just stopped talking, put this stern face back on, and carried on about his day. So there is no such thing as bad talking about your feelings. Okay, your feeling. So I'll say something here that you're gonna roll your eyes at, but your feelings are valid and important. It's all about how, and we talked about that a couple of minutes ago, how you integrate that into your life so that you can walk and chew gum at the same time.
I'm having feelings right now. Okay, look, I will just
I know.
concede. So I will concede. Look, people that want to build this Christian mighty men of God, stuff like that, and then sit around a campfire holding each other's hearts. Fine, I'll concede. You guys are great. You keep doing that. Once every 3 or 4 years, when I need to talk about something for like an hour, I can't even think of an example, but I'm sure it happens. It's happened before. Maybe it'll happen again. So if I need to like bare my soul for an hour, I have somewhere to go, and then you guys can hold down the fort the other 4 years. So there you go. Okay, so I will concede. Everyone hold everyone's hearts. Yeah.
Yeah, therapy culture is trash. Um,
So, Chris, what is it that you were talking about? Like, give me the like 90-second Cole's notes of this paper.
yeah. So, oh, you mean the Cliff Notes? Freaking Canadians.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
Cole. Yeah, it's Cole's notes up here.
so
And
this
it's cool that you
article,
knew what it was. It's cool that you knew what it was, though.
yeah, one of my the shows that my kid and I are watching right now is Stargate Atlantis, and they make a joke about that. So because there's like
Okay.
people that are Canadian on the show. So
You ever watch Schitt's Creek?
Yeah,
no.
It's hysterical.
it's pretty funny.
Okay, so this article is by J. Chase Davis. He's just he's a writer.
I'm looking at
Um,
this paper now. I can't get it off my screen.
yeah, so
Father wound.
his thesis is there is a call in men's ministry that most men sense but can't seem to name. And You sign up for the retreat. The branding is masculine with names like Basic Training or The Crucible or Survivor School. But the promotional video looks like a voiceover, the movie trailer, men hiking or praying with clenched fists. They're staring meaningfully at campfires or throwing axes. And then you get there, and 2 hours in, you're in a circle processing your father wound. Something you knew was coming, but you just couldn't name it. And he just goes on, basically that there was a book that is huge in Christian men's therapy culture, written by a guy named John Eldridge. I don't know if you know who that is, Michael.
Like Eldritch Blast.
I mean, I know a different man with a last name of Eldridge, so I'd just be projecting because it's a totally different person. So no, I don't know who that person
So
is.
he wrote this book called Wild at Heart. Okay. And
Okay.
this is a remember we talked about Brene Brown, but this is
Oh, sure,
Brene
yeah.
Brown with Bible verses. It's the same wound, it's the same absent father, it's the same recovery of authentic self, that's buried under performance and expectation, but it's the masculine register, not, it just changes the vocabulary without changing the, anthropological and redemptive blueprint. So essentially this article is criticizing that, these men's ministries are essentially processing an atheistic, therapy culture worldview in the guise of Christianity. And so it's kind of a clash of worldview ideas here that, you know, that specifically boomer men, are, pushing forward, uh, the idea of therapy culture for the first time in the church. And essentially, like, it talks about the Promise Keepers movement and some of these other things that were, specifically geared toward men to bring them into the same type of atheistic therapy culture that women had been, kind of marinating in the church for quite a long time.
Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, kind of in reverse order, a friend of mine is actually a fundraiser for an organization closely affiliated to Promise Keepers here in Canada. um, and he's a very staunch believer, all this stuff. Anyway, so I find it interesting that you said it's boomers that are doing this. I think that would be interesting, and I find that
Well, they're the ones who
I find
started it.
that
The people in power now are like Gen X and millennials, but boomers were the first generation to embrace this. Is his art is anyway? I emailed you the article. I'd be interested in your take.
okay. I'm very curious to read it because historically, um, historically, my experience has been that is that boomers are of that class that lack that kind of capacity, right? And there are large groups of Gen Xers like you and I that also have these type of problems because we were, it's like I have a T-shirt that says "raised on hose water and neglect." Because I mean, you knew what it was like, right? A Saturday morning, you got up, you got dressed, you went out of the house. You may have come back for lunch, but maybe not. And as long as you were home and the lights came on, nobody gave a damn. Right. And so there is the kind of culture. Um, I'm hesitant to call it toxic, but a lot of people label it as toxic for people in our generation who don't seem to have the capacity to talk about this stuff because they felt like they were neglected by their parents their whole lives. Um, so yeah, so I'm very curious to read this article. I obviously don't think that talking about your feelings is bad, but I do think that there are, and like I said before, I think there are times when it's like, for example, if you were, it's like if you were dealing with something with, like I said today, if you were dealing with something with your son, right? But you had all these feelings about something, I think you would rightly kind of say, no, I gotta take care of this other stuff first. There's time for me later. My son isn't as mature, whether either physically or emotionally than I am. So, I will defer to make sure that my kid's taken care of. And that happens all the time. I'm very curious to read the article. I'm just going to check my email, see if I got it.
Yeah. Please do. I think the main criticism of the article is that within traditionally Christian spaces, um, completely secular and atheistic um, anthropology has made its way in to where instead of the Christian idea of who man is and what the problems are, that it's been wholly and completely replaced by a materialistic secular idea of anthropology, like you said, fizzing bags of chemicals. And so the main thesis of this piece is that the church largely has traded in its responsibility to teach Christianity to atheistic secular therapy culture is the argument.
Right. So there's a guy actually that I'm uh, acquainted with. I don't know that I go as far as to call him a friend, but I run into him every once in a while at conferences and stuff like that. He is a devout Christian. He is also a therapist, right? He's one of the guys that I will sometimes refer another person to. Like if somebody comes to me and says blah 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 blah, and I know that I can't be honorable with that person because we just have our worldviews are so diametrically opposed. He's one of the guys that I will kind of flip to and say, maybe talk to this guy. And he'll sometimes, like, we're connected on social media things, etc. And he'll sometimes send me a message saying, hey, so and so just reached out to me, and I'll give him a little bit of a, he just, he wanted to talk about something from this perspective. I think that's bunk. So yeah, have at it. And we joke about that and stuff like that. But anyway, it's it's a I think it's I while I understand your perspective, right? Like, okay, so maybe I should ask this question. Is it fair to say that you believe that whatever the problem any individual may face, they can find their answer to that problem in the Bible?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so of course, with that feeling and that belief, of course, you're going to think that anything outside of that is, is silly, what did you say, therapy culture. Of course, right? By the same token, I would look at that and say, well, it's just, I wouldn't say it's silly Christian culture. I would say it's, well, it depends. If I'm looking for a fight, I'd say that. But if it was kind of more rational me,
Well,
then I would say that's, that's a little misguided to be, to be excluding, an arena that has the capacity to give you a more science-based approach to solving your problem, etc.
Well, but
But
the push,
but it makes perfect sense
well,
based on what you
but it's not.
believe.
It's also not. You aren't fighting that. Like the fight is somewhere else because the therapy stuff is still in the Bible, right? Like just in a less gay way. It's like bear one another each other's burdens and stuff like that. So you can find Christian brotherly therapy and stuff like that in the Bible, just not so much like overly emotional. Or I mean, I guess that's
I
subject.
know
Well,
you
what
don't actually believe that therapy is tantamount to homosexuality, right?
it's no, it was a no. You're not gay if you go to therapy. But I was making a joke, like how Chris says the R word, not thinking something is
Mhm.
literally mentally deficient, but you don't like it, like that. It's like that's sick, that's ill, right? So, anyways, but no, Michael, like so. I mean, it's not like the Bible's like anti-therapy. It's just subjectively how people do that. So, like, if Chris is like, Nate, man, can I talk to you about some stuff? I'm having a heavy day, and like by the way, a few months ago, I talked to Chris. I'm like, hey, Chris, man, I got some stuff going on. Like, this is a lot of stuff to process. Like, there's all this paperwork. There's all these contracts. Like, dude, I don't know, man. That's kind of overload. He's like, oh, I got you. I got you, buddy. Like, yeah, take a breath. Da, da, da. I'm like, thank you. That was good. No one had to hold each other's heart necessarily, unless a weird metaphor. No one exchanged tears. Or like, if Chris is like, hey, man, look, I need you to help me pray about this. I'm like, yeah, sure. Now let's go kill something and eat some steak. So I mean, it's not like Chris is saying no therapy, and you're saying no. Science-based therapy is the way to go. Your Bible just doesn't account for that. Well, it does. It's just how it's done. So
How
no
many
one's
different
arguing.
therapeutic modalities are there in the Bible?
Well, what I just said. So it's very simple. Like Jesus may not say like that verse that just says like each one bear one another's burdens. Like if you can't get like some sort of like, hey, I have a problem. Let me tell you what's going on. Yes, I hear you. I will help you with this problem. So if you're looking for like Jesus says like show me where the Jesus says I am God, I am God. It's like show me in the Bible where it says there is therapy. It doesn't say like hold your Christian brother's heart and have therapeutic remedies for him. It says bear one another's burdens. Like how is that not a therapeutic statement? But then it's like how far people want to take it. If you want to take it to like non-biblical territory and like just different breathing techniques and whatever, that's what I mean. So I mean, it's not like Chris is saying no therapy at all, and you're saying no, definitely therapy, which is not in the Bible. It's like, well, no, this idea of like helping one another with their issues is in the Bible, but that is worlds of difference from where people can take that.
Well, and
Right.
we're
So
not
you
even really talking about therapy here. We're talking about like a view of man that is going to be different than the atheistic view of man creeping its way into the church. That's the point of this, not
right.
therapeutic modalities or, like I believe in nouthetic counseling. I don't know if you've heard of nouthetic counseling or not, but like,
That's not one
have
I've
you?
heard of.
Oh, really? Okay. So back in the 80s, this
It's all
cat
about the
invented,
Bible. You'll hate it.
yeah, it's basically just Bible-based counseling, in a
Oh,
professional
that's
way.
probably
So
why I
there's,
haven't heard of it. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's a good
So,
example. Like, I mean, this isn't really like counseling, but like that's just the same thing. Like now, like whatever you would say about therapy, let's just say it's not going to be what the Bible says. So just say, here's my view of therapy and how to properly, do therapy. It's tailored for each person specifically, but here's some general guidelines. And it's like the Bible's like, yeah, here's the answer. If you got problems, go to a brother in Christ and confess your problems or sins. Sin's not a thing. Okay, that's a difference. So, like, go confess your sins. Get some help. Tell other people. There's wise counsel in a multitude of different people and stuff like that. So it's like that would be the Bible answer to some of these therapy issues versus what you say. So in marriage counseling, it's like, well, the Bible specifically talks about roles of husbands and wives and differences and dispute resolution, which would probably be vastly different than you saying like, journal me all this stuff and, keep a diary of this stuff. It doesn't mean if you're doing Bible-based counseling, you can't do that. But if you're doing this not with the Bible, you're not bringing the Bible into it. You're like, hey, just journal about some crap. Versus this person's like, hey, reflect on scriptures. Reflect on these scriptures about husbands and wives. Jot down a thought or two. So the idea is to incorporate as a base, as a foundation, the Bible versus, well, we're getting off base. You're like completely secular, but even for quote Christian counselors, they're like, sure, the Bible's great. We'll even scratch out a prayer in the beginning, maybe the end if you pay extra. But then like all the stuff they say is basically what you would. They're just like being like, oh, sure, the Bible's great. And every now and then, like imagine you doing a counseling session and like praying for like 20 seconds half-heartedly and then like giving a Bible verse to memorize. That's essentially
Right.
like
So
kind of
you
the
could. So
differences.
I just looked up what this new set of counseling is. So, yeah, it's basically Bible-based pastoral counseling modeled developed by this guy named Jay Adams in the 1960s to help individuals change behaviors and resolve issues through loving, direct biblical confrontation. So he means like basically reading the Bible. So it talks about what the definition go through and the different pillars. And then one thing it says Bible sufficiencies. The set of counseling holds that the Bible provides the necessary wisdom and direction to solving life's problems. So okay, I would say that if someone, so he also says here, it says this other guy wrote a book. Well, no, the same guy wrote another book called Competent to Counsel. Introduced the term and method, arguing that pastors are fully equipped to counsel without reliance on psychological theories, which is of course nonsense. But what I would say is, if you had a counselor with actual credentials, they could very easily integrate this therapeutic modality into their counseling, and then they could look at things from a biblical perspective, but they would have the capacity to identify actual problems that could exist within an individual that might require other interventions. But to suggest that just because someone has the title of reverend makes them qualified to be a counselor is abject stupidity.
Well, but
And
that's
and
that's
there's just
also.
and it's
Okay,
just
go
the
ahead.
case. And so like, but I would say, like, if someone was an actual counselor and said this is the kind of counseling I want to do, then I think they could do that. I really think they could. But I think you still require, like, in the same way, um who is it, Chris Rock says in one of his comedy things, it's like, you can drive a car with your feet if you want to, that doesn't make it a good idea, right? um so you can, you might have the ability, right? I watched a YouTube video, right? Now I know how to, fix my broken femur, right? Um, you may have watched a really, really in-depth YouTube video. That doesn't make you qualified to do something like that. And while someone may look at somebody and say, well, there's a big difference between a broken leg and someone might say a broken leg and a broken brain. But there isn't, right? They just manifest their problems in different ways. So I would say that a competent counselor could integrate this modality into his counseling method, and he could probably be quite successful because he'd have a firm background. He would then be integrating his belief structure to to approach the therapy sessions, and he'd also be dealing with an individual who shared a mindset, right? So me using this modality, like, I could integrate this like with what I know from my Christian days. I could do some reading and I could integrate this modality into the into the therapeutic things that I do, but I wouldn't, because it wouldn't be. I don't think it would be ethically sound for me to do so. But I think if somebody had the firm basis in the counseling and then was also a believer and was counseling people who were also believers, I think it actually could have a high degree of success. The one thing that I have to go back on, though, is, and this is something that um, I've lost. I think I've lost the capacity to let this go. Uh, Chris, a minute ago, you said, the whole, atheistic perspective, right? So while it might be fair to say that your worldview is one dimensional, you shouldn't project that onto others,
Uh,
because my belief that a God doesn't exist is maybe 3% of how I view the world. Okay. So, and everything that I do, regardless of what you may think, isn't based in my belief that a God doesn't exist. There's lots of things that I do every day that have nothing whatsoever to do, despite what you may think, in my belief that a God doesn't exist.
Let's put a pin in that because I have some other stuff I want to inquire about before I have to run. It's a short day. Um, if you can see my screen, some of these are just funny and I need to bring to your attention. But then I have some theological questions. So, you guys see this? I'll read it. It's this guy with the most cheesy grin in his mugshot, and it says, "Criminal caught after cutting off 37 man buns in one day claims he was doing the Lord's work." Chris, unanimous consent. We agree that is in fact doing the Lord's work. Okay, yes. The official position of the Ask a Christian podcast is we're just joking. Don't do that. But that is funny. Another one. Okay, Michael, you may be in. Oh, hang on. First, I saw this post. That's not loading. Oh, there it goes. Air conditioners then versus air conditioners now. And it's like the big dog. It's like the Doge dog or whatever. It's like the big buff one with like an old junky air conditioner. It's like, I'm 50 years old. I
saw
freeze
that.
the room.
I saw that meme.
I
that
have
meme
a
came across my timeline as well.
side of me and I'm missing parts and it still works. Versus like the little scrawny one. It's like, Mom, there's dust on my filter. I don't work anymore. Okay, one more thing and then Christian ones to end this. Okay, you guys can stay and talk about your feelings as long as you want, though. Okay, Michael, Chris, were you guys Ninja Turtles fans back in the day? Like real fans that read the comic books, or just like fans at all? TV show, cartoons.
I was busy playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay, here is my question. So maybe someone watching can research because I'm with a bunch of nerds. Wait, nerd if you do, nerd if you don't. Okay, so I was a huge fan of the movies and the TV show. I don't think I've read really one actual comic book in my life. Okay, so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Did you know these facts about Mikey, Donnie, April, Casey, and these other characters? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so apparently I just found this out. In Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I guess, episode 1 of the comic book in 1984. It says Donatello was the one who killed Shredder after Leonardo wounded him but refused the final blow. Talk about your feelings, Leo. Shredder pulled a grenade. Donatello hurled his bow staff, knocking Shredder and the grenade off the rooftop and ending him for good. My whole childhood may have been a lie. Chris, I may need to talk about my feelings. Like, because the movie in like 91 or 3 or whenever the movie came out, Shredder doesn't get ended, right? He goes in the trash compactor and gets crushed, but then he's very much alive because they make a whole number 2 turtle movie. So are we saying the movie took liberties and did not kill the Shredder when he actually died in... But wait, if the Shredder's like their arch enemy, how could he really die in issue number 1? I have a lot of questions, guys. If someone out there can help me...
I didn't read the comics when they came out. They were considered adult comics when they came out in the 80s when I was a kid.
You know,
I mean, the most I ever did was sometimes that when the cartoon was on, like I would like kind of like sit watch the cartoon for 3 or 4 minutes till I got bored. It just wasn't my, now. You mean give me some Thundercats? I'd be watching that all day long. But yeah, I was not into it at all.
Okay, hold on. Let me get an answer, and then I have Christian questions. Okay, you're going to have to bear with me while I ask the AI because it's just easier not to mute. So I got to ask this again. Can you please research this and explain this to me? It says it looks like issue number 1 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics. Shredder fell over the thing, and it says ended him. Does that mean dead, like he's out of the comic book series? Or does it mean like ended him, like defeated the bad guy but didn't kill him? Because there needs to be a whole lot of comic books that presumably would have to have Shredder in them. Also, in the movie version in like the 90s when it came out, Shredder gets thrown over the roof into a trash compactor and gets crushed, but he doesn't die because he comes back in the second movie. What is true? My childhood is a lie. Okay, in the very first comic film, yes, Shredder actually dies, but later the writers brought him back, which is why he appears. Okay, so yeah, Leonardo stabs him.
You should have no problem accepting that.
Well, I want to know why. How did they bring him back? Did they call
on
the
Christian?
joke?
He came back from the dead, Nate.
I know. I didn't miss the joke. I mean, are we saying Ninja Turtles like incorporated the resurrection power of God for their Ninja Turtle? I doubt that's what they did. So how then did they do it? Um, so, so they they retconned. Okay, so they retconned it. So they didn't bring him back from the dead. They went back in time and space, Michael. It's different. Okay, in the movie's reason, intentionally copied the comic ending at the end, knocked him off the roof. Casey Jones hit the compactor. He seems dead. But okay, so wow, how okay guys, look, I'm not great at the stuff I do a lot. How bad is that if you're like, guys, we have these Ninja Turtles, they're mutant Ninja Turtles, they grow up and they're trained by a karate rat, and it's really cool, and there's this bad guy who's a master ninja shredder, and he's really cool and a cool bad guy, and then he dies in the very first issue. It's like, how did that make it out of editing? Because like if they had to retcon it, they presumably didn't see this coming. They're like, oh wait guys, we just killed like the best bad guy we had, we gotta bring him back. Like, I mean, right, you gotta be pretty bad at your job to be like, all right, we're gonna start and end an awesome franchise in one comic book. Okay.
Well, it does seem a little short-sighted.
Well, from what I understand, and check the history on this because I may be misremembering it, but I also think that they didn't think there was going to be another comic book after the first one because it was such an outrageously crazy idea.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know, what's so crazy
So why
about
did the
Mutant
writer
Turtles
kill
being
Shredder in the
pizza?
first
Come on.
book? Did they not think that this was going to be successful? Someone is saying that it was supposed to be a one-off because they didn't think it would take. Because that's a really bad business model to be like, hey, we have an awesome story and we're going to end it in one episode. You're right, Chris. That's basically what happened. The creators did not expect the comic book to become a long-running series, so they wrote this as a complete story with an ending. They printed 3,000 copies. Wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Can you imagine if you had one of those originals? That'd be worth a few bucks. But no, it's interesting. What I think part of what you described, right? This idea of having a story and an ending. You just described 99% of the best movies ever made. Right? They were made, and that was it. Right? There was no sequels. There was no nothing. Right? There was no sequel to The Breakfast Club. Right? For a reason. It's iconic all on its own. You don't touch it. But Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, those follows arc and those followed story arcs, right? Which needed to be told to completion. Should they have stopped at episode 6? Yes. For Star Wars, I mean. And my favorite Star Trek of all time, I think it's movie 4. The Voyage Home. That was great. I love that one. But yeah, I mean, most movies are just they have a great story and a good cast, and then they tell the story, and then it's done. Because it's done.
Good luck, Michael. In case you want to buy me a gift rather than a Porsche with your retirement fund, for the low price, for a rough mid-condition copy, you're looking $7,000 to $12,000. For high-grade copies, $20,000 to $30,000 for near-perfect copies of first edition 1984 TMNT, more than $30,000. So if you decide that you want to forego your car and get your good buddy Nate a first edition, then I'm not going to say that guarantees your place in heaven you don't believe exists, but I mean, I think you're a pretty swell guy. Okay. All right, Chris. A somewhat funny question, but maybe apocalyptic, whatever. But then another serious question to end us. Okay. So, have you heard about this? If it wants to load. On May 17th, the President of the United States is planning a national prayer event to rededicate America under God on May 17th, 2026. The sitting president standing beneath the cross, calling a nation back to the source it was built on. That image alone is a statement. The rededication of America under God is not a religious ceremony for the benefit of one denomination or one tradition. It is an acknowledgement that the nation's authority, freedom, and purpose were never self-generated. They came from a source above any president, any party, any political movement. Whether this movement becomes historically significant or not will depend on what happens after the event. Rededication that does not produce change behavior is just ceremony, but the act of a nation's leader publicly calling it back to God on a specific date with intention is the kind of thing that invites a divine response. Foregoing all that, Chris, I don't dislike the idea of calling America back to God. That's actually pretty good. And dedicating it or rededicating it back to God. But, Chris, if they have some of your who's who of pastors, like Paula White and maybe some of these other people who are up there doing the dedication, is this actually going to usher in the apocalypse?
And
Did you just
lo,
say
the red
Paula
blood
White?
moon.
Paula,
Paula
did you say
White,
Paula
yes,
White?
she's the main.
Oh, she's
Yes.
hysterical.
She's
She's amazing.
I'm
She
hearing
is.
echoes.
She's
Oh,
almost
sorry.
as good as
No, you go,
she's
Chris. You were
almost
talking.
as good as what's her name, Kat Kerr. Almost.
Almost.
Maybe she will
Paula
be there.
White. Maybe she will be there. What do you mean? Maybe. Like
Kat
she
Kerr.
is the head. Oh, maybe Kat Kerr will be there. Yeah, maybe.
Can we?
Like
SEO
Paula
of
White
Crickets is going to
the
be there.
head of Trump's like spiritual crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no, I and lo, the blood moon shall be upon us, and we shall see the locusts eating of the fields, and the boils and sores coming up on our skin as the Trump prayer breakfast emerges from the shadows, featuring Paula White with horns.
I mean, let's see if CEO's got Crickets a gig, and also. Did you hear about the Prinjo whatever? Why can't she just be named like Jackie or something? But that person, the Catholic chick that got kicked out of the religious committee, remember for going after the Jews?
She was in it. Carrie Pearjan or whatever.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so Carrie Jo Pearjan. Yeah.
She was in an interview and she was going after Paula White. She's like, yeah. Paula White, I think Paula White did it. They're like, did you have any idea what made people mad or who did this? She's like, yeah, I believe it was Paula White. Like, it was like almost certainly her. Like, she's awful. She's a heretic. Like, she's terrible. I'm like, dang. She was just blasting her.
Yeah, I saw that whole thing. I mean,
you did?
I mean, papists shouldn't be allowed in polite society. But, you know, the fact that they threw Carrie Jo Pearjan out, you know, is A, wildly appropriate, and B, she's not wrong about Paula White.
Well, right. So you got to pick your fighter. Who do you pick? Like in an ideal world, none. But you got to pick a papist or Paula White. Who do you pick? I think I'm going with the papist, as long as their attention is not directed at me.
Well, yeah, because when papists do turn their attention to you, they do things like burn you at the stake.
Yeah.
You
So
know, they've got a bit of a history doing so.
Michael, do you have any more thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm sure he does.
In like a minute or less.
Paula White is hysterical. I mean, you can just go into YouTube and click in, but like she talks abject nonsense. I doubt very seriously she's ever cracked a Bible. Like I there's a part of me that would relish the opportunity to like sit in a room with her and see how long we can go back and forth quoting scripture. I guarantee she loses. She loses. But she is. She's like a Black Widow spider, in that she is just opportunistic, and she sees that opportunity with Trump. And because you notice that when he was out of office, where was she? She was nowhere.
Probably
He's
like
back.
on a mountain
She's
cave
well,
somewhere.
she was sticking with him though. Like she was like that was the whole thing. Is like she was sticking with him, you know, and that's why he rewarded her, is because of her loyalty in the wilderness. So,
Yeah, but
like,
that's all.
you know,
That's
and
everything to Trump, right? It's fealty. All he wants is fealty.
is fealty. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, like, you know, where was she? She was in his inner circle, you know, still, you know, trying to, because again, there's an intersection there between the Trump worshipers and the Word Faith movement that she is absolutely taking advantage of, right? So, like, you know, there's definitely a synergy there that she's, like you said, being opportunistic about.
I
I
when you
didn't
said
know
Black
that she
Widow, I was
was
just thinking about like
was
I was imagining her like assinuating the insides and
word
sucking them out
faith.
like a straw. Okay, the last one. If you can see it, Chris. It seems in the recesses of my mind I may have heard this before, but the common understanding is not what this says. The common understanding of this passage is, the common understanding. Is this true, Chris? Turning the other cheek isn't about submission. It is an act of defiance. Modern society interprets Christ's command as a call to be a doormat, to be passive, weak, defenseless. I wouldn't go that far. But in first century Judea, the left hand was considered unclean. You would never use it to strike someone. Therefore, to slap someone on the right cheek, as Jesus specifies, you had to use the back of your right hand. A backhand slap was an act of insult. It was how a superior hit an inferior. It said, "You are beneath me." By turning your head and offering the left cheek, you physically prevent them from backhanding you again. You force the aggressor to use their open palm or a fist. This is reading into a lot of stuff. Why does this matter? Because a fist is how you hit an equal. Jesus wasn't telling his followers to cower. He was telling them to stand their ground, look the oppressor in the eye, and say, without words, "I am not your slave. I am a man. If you're going to hit me, treat me like one." It is not an act of cowardice. It is an assertion of dignity that requires terrifying courage. On one hand, before you answer, I want to. There may be something to that, but the way this guy, like, it's like a Charlie Day murder board, like how he's like stringing all those like red lines together, like this connects to this, and this connects to this, and this connects to this. It seems like too much of that. But Chris, what are your thoughts on this passage?
That is completely and utterly false. And I don't know of a single Bible commentator that would say that. It's the example of Jesus that he submits himself to the authorities to take him off to death. This kind of thing. It's like, oh, well, you've been reading the New Testament wrong all along, and for 2,000 years,
I guarantee this guy has videos on flat Earth and Nephilim.
Yeah, it's like until the atheists helped us uncover what's the real ancient Near East, nobody's known anything about it. It's been buried in the sand for 4,000 years. And then the atheists were able to help us understand the Bible better. Like this is an actual thing. And Michael, you'd love this. You should have Dr. Walton on your show. He's going to be praising the atheists to the high heavens for uncovering the true meaning of the Bible for us.
So no.
I mean, the only thing I would say to that is, I mean, I forget the verse now, but I mean, yeah, it's like, it's like if I put my Christian hat back on for a minute. It's like the whole idea. I mean, there was nothing forcing Jesus to do what he did with the Bible verse, right? Nobody takes my life from me. I have the power to lay it down, I have the power to take it up again, right? So it was him willingly going like, here. That's why he never. Even in the Garden of Gethsemane, he could have gotten away if he really wanted to, right? Like he could have made that happen, and he didn't on purpose, right? So yeah, it's just weird.
So
Yep.
this let's see, GPT bot says it is scholarly but not proven. The argument is scholarly but not proven historically. Many scholars think it reads too much into the mechanics of a slap. Yeah, like the right hand connects to the left foot, or whatever that is, the Bone song. So it's like no, and then it says actually there's a Roman law in the background of the "go the extra mile" verse that is historically documented, and that's way more solid than this claim. And then Calvin bot is just like straight up the based reality. The interpretation is, I think you're typing. When I ask Calvin bot, it's really you, Chris. You're in the background typing this because you're controlling it. The interpretation is that text is a product of 20th century sociology. It seeks to make the radical demands of Christ palatable to a modern mind that values dignity and defiance. However, the Bible often calls for things that are opposite of the dignity in the eyes of the world. Christ himself, when struck, did not offer a tactical maneuver of defiance. He surrendered to the cross. His dignity was not social maneuvering, but in perfect obedience to the will of the Father. It is a clever sociological theory that helps people see the cultural context of first century Judea, but should not be treated as the hidden or true meaning, or the real way to read the Bible. The verse is fundamentally a command to let go of the ego and desire for worldly status, which is much harder and much more based reality than simply trying to outsmart an oppressor. Like Michael says, Jesus did in the garden. He's like, bro, I could call legion and just like destroy everything, but he didn't. So anyway, all right, there you go, guys. You can hold each other's. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, just before you went, I wanted to ask Michael an ethical question. So, Michael, you just were exposed to nouthetic counseling for the first time. Now, would you say that somebody who is saying that they are offering Bible-based counseling therapy that is controlled by the state, right? So you have to have state licensure and all this stuff. That they are saying that their counseling is Christian and Bible based, but then they turn around and all of the modalities that they use are written by either agnostics or atheists, and they're simply saying, "Well, we use evidence based, stuff as opposed to the Bible." Would you say that, given your ethical standards, right? Like somebody wants Bible based counseling and you say, well, hey, go talk to this other cat because I'm not going to do that. Would you say that that's maybe an ethical problem for them? Kind of coming from the flip side is they're claiming to have Bible based counseling, but yet turning around and giving sort of materialistic or, science based counseling.
Good question.
Well, I mean, I would argue that even this nouthetic counseling would still have a basis in the social sciences. When you said government licensed, I mean, I'm assuming like so. I don't know that we call it licensing in Canada. I'm a registered, I'm a registered, so like with the like organizations up here in Canada, I am a registered social worker. So people can look up my credentials and say, here it is and stuff like that. But so and
Yeah,
I
here like
imagine
you have to go
all those
through
things
X
are the
number of
same.
years of school. And so
Yeah.
like here you have
Yes.
to go through X number of years of school and you have to have X number of years of like residency, and then you have to have X number of years of hours of training. And then you get your full like licensed mental health counselor like thing.
Okay. So yeah, it's probably very close, if not exactly the same. All right. Fine. Um, if they present themselves as a Bible-based counselor and don't refer, so I mean, like, because I've talked to, so the guy that I mentioned before, I've interacted with him, and I've asked him flat out, I'm like, hey, so and he's a licensed social worker as well. I'd be like, oh, hey, so when people sit down with you, what do you do? And we've had these conversations. Like when I first asked him that question, he's kind of laughed. We both laughed at it. But we've sat down and had a meal together, and he said, well, I do this. And what he does is he analyzes their issues from using science-based modalities. And then what he does is he he offers up solutions that will hopefully net a good result, but he doesn't talk about that science-based thing. What he does is he then says, you should pray on it and things like that, and he turns it into this spiritual type thing. I don't view that as unethical, because he's not saying, okay, what you really need to do is you need to do this, this, and this. Because, like, for example, if I was doing either CBT or DBT or solution focus brief therapy or things like that, there's very specific things you do to walk someone along that trajectory. He doesn't. What he does is he takes all the information in, and then instead of laying out the secular trajectory, he lays out a spiritual trajectory. So I wouldn't, and so I don't view what he does as unethical in any way, shape, or form. I think to most directly answer your question, if you had someone who was claiming to offer this nouthetic, Bible-based therapeutic environment, but then used secular modalities and secular trajectories.
Oh, I think he was asking
I
the,
would
the
say that
other thing.
then I would say that's not ethical, because because you're not offering that person, you regardless of the situation, you have to meet people where they are. Right? You've heard that saying a thousand times. Like, I'm going to meet you where you're at, kind of thing. You have to meet people where they are. So if Chris, if you did go to a therapist and he listened to everything that you had to say.
Okay, I think they're talking past each other. I think Chris was saying, is it ethical? Like, no one's talking about Nuthetic. I think he was talking about other non-Nuthetic Bible-based counselors who say they're Bible-based and Christian, but basically just use secular stuff. I think that's the question, and it was completely addressing the wrong thing. Anyways, I'm out of time. I got to go. Take care. Like, share, subscribe, hit the like button. We'll see you next time. Check out askachristianpodcast.com.